Hey guys, in this episode, I'm going to look at a couple of regional areas in Queensland to see whether or not they're going to boom or bust. First area is in a place called Bundaberg, which is north of Brisbane by about 4 hours by car. So you drive past Sunshine Coast, past Maryborough, and you get to Bundaberg, which is a small regional area in Queensland. Second area I'm going to look at is Rockhampton, which again is further north of Brisbane. So it's about another 4 hours from Bundaberg to Rockhampton, or about 800 kilometers from Brisbane. And the third area is Townsville, which is another 400 k's or 4 hours drive from Rockhampton up to Townsville. So if we go and have a look back down at Brisbane, so you're about 12 hours drive or 1,200 kilometers to Townsville from Brisbane. The first area is Bundaberg. It's had a massive growth over the last 4 years. So you can see back in 2020, it started to go through its boom phase where everyone from the capital cities moved out to regional areas and they pushed the prices up, and ever since then it's kept climbing in price. So it's had 4 years of growth, which is pretty abnormal for a boom market to go for that long in terms of growth. But that's due to undersupply. It is a regional area and we haven't had an oversupply into that market just yet. But if I show you a couple more statistics, it looks like this market is either at the top or it's about to be at the top of the market. So my indicators all show that I wouldn't be buying a house in Bundaberg. And this is why the stock on market is still reasonably low or very low. We've got only 152 listings across all of Bundaberg, so 0.29%. Where our inventory, so the product, the houses are only going to take 1 month to sell at the current rate. And the building approvals is less than 1%. So there's hardly any new stock coming to market. There's hardly any stock on the market. So in terms of the supply, there's actually not much supply. However, if we flip over to the demand side of things, there's 53 days on market, which for a regional area is pretty normal. It is towards the tighter end. If you scroll back to before it started to boom, we were sitting at like 70, 80 days on market. So we're down now at 53, which has been fairly consistent the last few years. The vacancy rate is low, so less than 1% means it's a really tight market in terms of people wanting to rent. So the demand is quite high or reasonably high. But we've got to remember we're in a regional area. This regional area can be oversupplied quite quickly, and also the demand can dry up quick as well, especially during times of economic turmoil where people try and find other jobs, or when businesses start laying off people, they need to find jobs elsewhere. And sometimes that means moving locations. So in past circumstances, instances where our economy is taking a bit of a hit or has taken a bit of a hit, areas like this regional area, people move out of there, generally towards the capital cities in search of a job. And this is why I personally would not be investing into Bundaberg. Next regional market is Rockhampton. So we are further north than Bundaberg, and I'm going to work my way up to Townsville. So you can see house prices started to incline at the back end of 2021. So we've gone through about 2.5 years. It's getting on towards the third year of growth for this area. So typically boom cycles last for between 2 to 3 years. So one would think that we're approaching the end of the boom cycle. But as we've seen with Bundaberg, they've been through basically 4 years of growth, which is pretty phenomenal in terms of price growth for 4 years straight. And when we have a look at the supply, the stock on market and the inventory is very, very low. You can see there's only 100 listings, which is less than 0.3% of stock on market. The inventory, the rate of sales will clear that stock in less than a month. There's hardly any building approvals, 0.3% of building approvals, and the hold period is much longer. So you're approaching 10 years in terms of hold period. The demand is also very sharp as well. There's only 33 days on market. The vacancy rate is sitting at 1%, so it's a really tight market. And especially for a regional area, these days on market are extremely low, which means that this market is running very hot. And I still think it has at least another 6 to 12 months of growth cycle left, where we're going to see some gains. May not be as big gains as we've previously seen, but I still think there's another at least 6 to 12 months to run in this market. But again, I'd be keeping close eye on commodity prices and also to see whether these building approvals start notching up. In other words, is there more supply coming, and are the days on market of properties starting to sit around for a bit longer? So is that demand starting to dry up, especially in these regional areas where there might only be 100,000 people, like Rockhampton, for example. If 5,000 people move out of the area, that creates a big hole for the demand, and it can oversupply the market very easily. And the last regional area I'm going to have a look at is Townsville. You can see from the price growth, it started to enter into its boom phase around mid-2020, and it's been going hard for the last almost 4 years. So typical boom cycles last for 2 to 3 years, and this one is sort of been going for 4 years. So it's due for a correction just on the price growth alone. It's now getting to the point where it's going to be unaffordable for a lot of people. However, it'll be investors that'll be driving this ongoing growth in the prices. So we're at the end of that cycle, or at least approaching it. So it looks very similar to Bundaberg. Now I know Townsville is going to be bigger, and people are going to tell me that it's diverse, there's more industries and all that stuff. And yes, I agree, it is diverse. There are more industries, but that doesn't negate that we have gone through 4 years of really good growth. So for all you guys that have bought into Townsville previously, I don't think there's much fuel left in the tank, and I think that it's probably going to see the end of that boom cycle in the not too distant future, just going off the price graph. But let's have a look at the supply and demand. Supply is still really tight. You've got low stock on market, you've got less than a month of inventory. The hold period is quite high, and there's still relatively low building approval. So Townsville is on borrowed time in terms of the boom cycle, but it looks like it might run for a bit longer just based on the supply. And the demand is extremely tight as well. So you've got 24 days on market. The vacancy rate is only 1%. So really, if we're going to be oversupplied in this market, it's probably not going to happen for 6 to 12 months, or potentially beyond that. So we might be on borrowed time for the next 6 to 12 months, but these supply and demand indicators look pretty positive in that regard. So Townsville looks like it's probably going to go through a bit more of a boom cycle. Out of those 3 markets I looked at, just from the price growth and the amount of supply and demand coming into the market, I'd be most comfortable, and unfortunately I say this because I grew up in Rockhampton, but it looks like Rockhampton is going to perform the best out of those 3 regional areas that I looked at. Now obviously each property in each suburb is going to be different, and I'm just taking a holistic view over the whole area, the whole town, but it looks like Rockhampton is actually going to be the best performer of those 3, just taking those price graphs showing you that Rockhampton's only been 2.5 years in price growth, which means that we're probably going to see another 1 year at least in that price growth market. It's got low supply like all those areas do. The demand was there, so it had low days on market for selling a house, low vacancy rate. And I think until those stats change, I think that market is going to be in boom phase. Obviously Bundaberg was the smallest regional market that I considered, and the smaller the area, the higher risk that the market can be oversupplied a lot more easier. So whereas Rockhampton and Townsville, even to a greater extent, it's going to take a bit more to oversupply the market, and it's also going to take more people leaving the area to create that lag in demand, or that reduction in demand, for then the market to correct itself.